हाय। अ, आज दरअसल ये जो वीडियो है ये बेसिकली बहुत ही अनयूजुअल है और नॉर्मली जो आर्टिकल मैं लिखता हूँ और उसको एक्सप्लेन करने के लिए 1 मिनट या 1.5 मिनट के, लेकिन ये आर्टिकल भी बहुत अनयूजुअल है क्योंकि ये आर्टिकल निकला है एक बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग कमेंट से, जो एक पॉलिटिकल पार्टी के नेता, पार्टी का नाम लेना उचित नहीं है यहाँ पर। जब उनको टिकट नहीं मिला उनकी पार्टी से, तो उन्होंने जिसको टिकट मिला उस पे कमेंट करते हुए ये कहा कि ये देखो, कुछ समय पहले यहाँ पर बर्तन मांजने के लिए आया था शहर में, और आज अ, पार्टी का एमएलए बनेगा और वो पार्टी की काफी जिम्मेवारी अब उन्होंने संभाली है। दरअसल ये वो बात को, जो घृणा है उसको अलग रखते हुए अगर आप देखेंगे तो ये कहानियां दरअसल हर शहर में है, और हमने देखा है कि कोविड के दौरान जबकि शहर की जो संरचना हमारे सामने आई वो इतनी एक्सक्लूजनरी है, मतलब इतनी ज्यादा गैर बराबरी है, उसके बावजूद भी शहर में लोग क्यों आते हैं। और ये आर्टिकल उसी को हुई समझने के लिए लिखा गया है कि इंडियाज अर्बनाइजेशन इज अ पैराडॉक्स, which means, I mean, the way India is urbanizing, unlike the urbanization that we have witnessed in the West, where you find, industrialization preceding urbanization and also absorbing large number of people. But here it's poverty driven. So if urbanization is poverty driven, then why people are migrating to the cities? Of course, Chinmay Tumbe, another friend of mine who teaches at IIM, has explained it phenomenally well that the great Indian urban migration, uh, and there are reasons for that. But the point is, there's another very important and interesting element, and that interesting element is of aspirations. And I've cited examples here how, and of course, Ambedkar was the first to champion it when he said, if you to get rid of the caste system in the villages, it's important to migrate to the cities. Uh, so aspirational question is something very important. Not that all of them reach to the level of the aspirations that they have in their mind, but we've cited a few examples. I'm sure every city has those examples. For example, someone who came as a domestic help rose to be one of the finest singers, of course, a local singer in the region. Likewise, uh, uh, a sanitation worker. In fact, a manual scavenging, someone whose parents and grandparents had practiced manual scavenging, now is aspiring to be to be a PhD scholar in JNU. And there are examples and examples. I mean, we've seen how cities are attracting people. So the whole question of aspiration is very interesting for in fact sociologists and the to understand the urban nuances, and this is a very important element. Why is, despite the fact that one of the most exclusionary forms of urbanization which we are witnessing in South Asia and of course in India, and this is supposed to be the India's urban century, where we'll have the largest number of people on planet living in cities in India in a few decades from now. Uh, so just the mere aspiration question, of course, which is important, and we've seen that in many instances, is not something that is going to sustain it for long. And but this migration also is linked to, because the remittances that they give back to their villages, and if the India's great migration and urbanization particularly is not sustainable, and sustainable of course from economic and from the climate uh, aspects, then there is a major crisis that's looming large. And so, what needs to be done in this context to catch this imagination, to catch these aspirations of the people, give them that space for creativity, so that their creativity can be enhanced, and at the same time, creating spaces for them, ensuring that they are equal partners. In fact, those who are city makers are allowed to be in the city spaces, uh, deciding their own futures, and not cities just meant for capital accumulation. And we all know that cities primarily have been meant for capital accumulation. There's nothing wrong in a capitalist system. But how that surplus that gets generated in a capitalist system gets democratized back to the people. And one of the forms, of course, there are various forms, one of the forms happens to be the processes of urbanization, in which right from the basic needs, spaces, designing the city, and also planning the entire city network and planning the entire cities. Unfortunately, what we've witnessed in the last 3 or 4 decades, where cities are also being commoditized, where cities are also being considered to be one of the as engines of growth, and of course, uh, from a, uh, from a purely economic perspective, is something that's not going to help in for achieving the sustainable, for larger question of sustainability or the sustainable development goals. But nevertheless, some very interesting stories are there. And so aspiration, how do we understand this aspiration? How do we create spaces for this aspiration in the cities, is something that I've written in this article. For details, one can go through this article that has been published in the Deccan Herald. Thank you so much.